Loki enjoyed another tale about Thor and Thrym, a stupid giant who had cunning strength. Loki and Thor had been in this giant's house. He had made a feast for them, and Thor had been on watchful. Then, when they were far from Jotunheim, Thor realized Mjolnir was missing. Mjolnir, the defense of Asgard and the help of the gods. He could not remember how or where he had mislaid it. Loki's thoughts went back towards Thrym, that supposedly stupid giant who yet had cunning streaks in him. Thor, who had lost the hammer that he had sworn never to let out of his sight, did not know what to do. But Loki thought it would be worthwhile to see if Thrym knew anything about it. He went first to Asgard. He hurried across the rainbow bridge and past Heimdall without speaking to him. To none of the dwellers in Asgard whom he met did he dare relate the tidings of Thor's loss. He spoke to none until he came to Frigga's palace. To Frigga he said, "You must lend me your falcon dress. I will fly to Thrym's dwelling and find out if he knows where Mjolnir is." "Yes, if every feather were made of silver, I would still give it to you to go on such an important errand," said Frigga. So Loki put on the falcon dress and flew to Jotunheim. He found the giant upon a hillside, putting golden and silver collars upon the necks of his hounds. Loki, in the plumage of a falcon, perched upon the rock above him, watching the giant with falcon eyes. And while he was there, he heard the giant speak boastful words. "I put collars of silver and gold on you now, my hounds, but soon we giants will have the gold of Asgard to deck our hounds and our steeds, yea, even the necklace of Freya to put upon you, the best of my hounds. For Mjolnir, the defense of Asgard, is in Thrym's hiding." Then Loki spoke to him. "We know Mjolnir is in thy possession, O Thrym, but know thou that the eyes of the watchful gods are upon thee." "Loki the shape-changer," said Thrym, "there you are. But all your watching will not help you to find Mjolnir. I have buried Thor's hammer 8 miles deep in the earth. Find it if you can. It is below the caves of the dwarves." "So it is useless for us to search for Thor's hammer?" said Loki. "It is useless for you to search for it," said the giant sulkily. "But what a recompense you would gain if you restored Thor's hammer to the dwellers in Asgard," Loki suggested. "Oh no, cunning Loki, I will never restore it, not for any recompense," said Thrym. "Yet think, Thrym," said Loki, "is there not an Asgard you would like to own? No treasure, no possession. Odin's ring? Frey's ship?" "No, no," said Thrym. "Only one thing could the dwellers in Asgard offer me that I would take in exchange for Mjolnir." "And what would that be, Thrym?" said Loki, flying closer. "She whom many giants have striven to gain, Freya, for my wife," said Thrym. Loki watched Thrym for a long time with his falcon eyes. He saw the giant would not alter his demand. At last Loki replied, "I will tell the dwellers in Asgard of your demand." And he flew away. Loki knew the dwellers in Asgard would never let Freya be taken from them to become the wife of Thrym, the stupidest of the giants. He flew back. By this time all the dwellers in Asgard had heard of the loss of Mjolnir, the help of the gods. Heimdall shouted to him as he crossed the rainbow bridge, asking what tidings he brought with him. But Loki did not stop to speak to the warden of the bridge. He went straight to the hall where the gods sat in council. To the Aesir and the Vanir he told Thrym's demand. None would agree to let the beautiful Freya live in Jotunheim as a wife to the stupidest of the giants. All the gods were sad, for now that Mjolnir was in the hands of the giants, all their strength would have to be used in the defense of Asgard. So they sat with looks downcast. But cunning Loki said, I have thought of a trick that may win back the hammer from stupid Thrym. Let us pretend to send Freya to Jotunheim as a bride for him, but let one of the gods go in Freya's veil and dress. Which of the gods would bring himself to do such a shameful thing? Said those in the council. Oh, he who has lost the hammer. Thor. He should be prepared to do as much to win it back. Thor. Yes, let Thor win the hammer back from Thrym by Loki's trick, said the Aesir and the Vanir. They left it to Loki to arrange how Thor should go to Jotunheim as a bride for Thrym. Loki left the council of the gods and came to where he had left Thor. There is only one way to win the hammer back, Thor, he said, and the gods have decreed that you shall take it. What is the way? Said Thor. Well, no matter what it is, just tell me of it, and I'll do as thou dost say. Loki began laughing. I am to take you to Jotunheim as a bride for Thrym. Thou art to go in bridal dress and veil, in Freya's veil and bridal dress. What? I, Thor, am to dress in woman's clothing? Yea, Thor, and wear a veil over your head and a garland of flowers upon it. I, Thor, wear a garland of flowers? And rings upon thy fingers, and a bunch of housekeeper's keys in thy girdle. Cease thy mockery, Loki, said Thor, or I shall do thee harm. It is no mockery. Thou wilt have to do this to win Mjolnir back for the defense of Asgard. Thrym will take no other recompense than Freya as a bride. I would mock him by bringing thee to him in Freya's veil and dress. When thou art in his hall, and he asks thee to join hands with him, say thou wilt not until he puts Mjolnir into thy hands. And then, when the mighty hammer is in thy hand, thou canst deal with him and all in his hall. And I will be with thee as thy bridesmaid. Oh, sweet little maiden, Thor. Loki, said Thor, you are the one who devised this to mock me. I, with a bride's veil upon me, and flowers. The dwellers in Asgard will never cease to laugh at me. Maybe, said Loki, but there will never be laughter again in Asgard, unless thou art able to bring back the hammer that thine unwatchfulness lost. True, said Thor unhappily. And is this, thinkest thou, Loki, the only way to win Mjolnir back from Thrym? It is the only way, O Thor, said cunning Loki. So Thor and Loki set out for Jotunheim in the dwelling of Thrym. A messenger had gone before them to tell Thrym that Freya was coming with her bridesmaid, and the wedding feast was to be prepared and the guests gathered, and that Mjolnir was to be at hand so it might be given over to the dwellers in Asgard. Thrym and his giant mother hastened to have everything in readiness. Thor and Loki came to the giant's house in the dress of a bride and a bridesmaid. A veil was over Thor's head, hiding his beard and his fierce eyes. He wore a red embroidered robe, and at his side hung a girdle of housekeeper's keys. Loki was veiled too. The hall of Thrym's great house was swept and garnished, and great tables were laid for the feast. Thrym's mother was going from one guest to the other, vaunting that her son was getting one of the most beautiful dwellers in Asgard as his bride, Freya, whom so many of the giants had tried to win. When Thor and Loki stepped across the threshold, Thrym went to welcome them. He wanted to raise the veil of his bride and give her a kiss. Loki quickly laid his hand on the giant's shoulder. "No, forbear," he whispered. "Do not raise her veil. We dwellers in Asgard are reserved and bashful. Freya would be much offended to be kissed before the ceremony." "Aye," said Thrym's old mother. "Do not raise thy bride's veil, son. The dwellers in Asgard are more refined in their ways than we, the giants." Then the old woman took Thor by the hand and led him to the table. The size and the girth of the bride did not surprise the huge giants who were in the wedding company. They stared at Thor and Loki, but they could see nothing of their faces and little of their forms because of the veils. Thor sat at the table with Thrym on one side and Loki on the other, and then the feast began. Thor, not noticing that what he did was unbecoming for a refined maiden, ate 8 salmon right away. Loki nudged him and pressed his foot, but he did not heed Loki. After the salmon, he ate an entire ox. "These maidens of Asgard," said the giants to each other, "they may be refined, but their appetites are lusty enough." "No wonder she eats, poor thing," said Loki to Thrym. "It is 8 days since we left Asgard, and Freya never ate all along the way. She was so anxious to see Thrym and to become his bride." "Aw, the poor little darling," said the giant. "What she has eaten is very little after all." Thor nodded his head towards the mead vat. Thrym ordered his servants to bring a measure to his bride. The servants kept coming with measures to Thor, and while the giants watched, and while Loki nudged and nodded, he drank 3 barrels of mead. "We are not so sorry that we failed to win a bride from Asgard," said the giants to Thrym's mother. And now a piece of the veil slipped aside, and Thor's eyes were seen for an instant. "Oh, how does it come that Freya has such glaring eyes?" said Thrym. "Oh, the poor thing," said Loki. "No wonder her eyes are glaring. She has not slept for 8 nights. So anxious was she to come to you into your house. But now the time has come for you to join hands with your bride. First put into her hands the hammer Mjolnir, that she may know the great recompense that the giants have given for her coming." Then Thrym, the stupidest of the giants, rose up and brought Mjolnir, the defense of Asgard, into the feasting hall. Thor could hardly restrain himself from springing up and seizing it from the giant, but Loki was able to keep him still. Thrym brought the hammer and put the handle into the hands of her whom he thought was his bride. Thor's hands closed on his hammer. Instantly he stood up. The veil fell off. His countenance and his blazing eyes were seen by all. He struck one blow on the wall of the house, and down it crashed. Then Thor went striding out of the room with Loki beside him, while within the giants bellowed as the roof and the walls fell down on them. And so was Mjolnir, the defense of Asgard, lost and won back again.